A very good evening and warm welcome to all the dignitaries present here. I am Momita from Clinic, serving as the allocated session assistant to ensure a seamless experience. Clinic stands as India's most relied upon digital platform, offering a multitude of enriching services exclusively for doctors. It is with great pride that Clinic serves as the digital partner for this event hosted by the Indian Association of Preventing and Social Medicine, and the focus of today's session is the food-based approach to tackle chronic disease, harnessing the power of nutrition. So now, let's begin today's session, for which I would like to invite Dr. Animesh Jain, sir, to take over for further. Over to you, sir.
So thank you.
Momita, there is some disturbance. There is some disturbance. Mute all other participants if it is possible.
Thank you, Momita, and good evening, everyone. Welcome to this session, IAPP session, that is Inter-Institutional Academic Program for Postgraduates, which is under the banner of IAPSM Karnataka chapter. And we've been having this very regularly, and now, thanks to technology, we've opened it to everybody. So anybody across anywhere in India or anywhere outside can also join the sessions. So we will begin shortly. What I would do is, as what we always do, I would hand over to Dr. Poonam, who's with us, who's the current president of IAPSM Karnataka chapter, for our opening remarks. And then we will go ahead with the program. I will again come back and guide you with the further proceedings. So over to you, Dr. Poonam.
Yeah, a very good evening to one and all, and welcome to all the participants on behalf of Karnataka chapter IAPSM. So as Dr. Animesh mentioned, this IAPP, that is Intercollegiate Academic Postgraduate Program. So it had begun as an on-site event in this district of Dakshin Kannada amongst the 7 to 8 colleges, with all the postgraduates and faculty coming together and sharing of knowledge happening. But with the COVID, we were unable to continue this, but yes, then we came up in a much bigger way, trying to reach out to all the different parts of the country through the technology and through in an online mode, with different topics of public health importance and of importance for the postgraduates in particular. So every month we are trying to have a renowned or resource person who has the expertise in the respective field and conduct this IAPP session. So I'm sure today's session by Dr. Suvetha also would be of great importance and of help to all the postgraduates and faculty assembled over here. So, and thank you, Dr. Suvetha, for accepting our invite.
Pleasure, ma'am, and thank you again for inviting me.
Thank you. And I would now request Dr. Kulkarni, who is now a National IPSM President. But way back, I think almost a decade back, he and his colleagues in the respective colleges of Dakshin Kannada, they were the founders of this IPP program. We are just taking it forward. So thank you, sir, for being here to grace this occasion, and over to you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Poonam. Thank you, Animesh. At the outset, let me thank the Karnataka chapter of IAPSM and IAPP for choosing this important topic. I always consider food as the best medicine available on earth. We have to go and purchase medicine. Okay? Nobody has got medicine readily available in any house. But this medicine, which is available in every house. Okay? And we consume this medicine at least 3 times a day from birth to death. No other medicine we take this regularly. But unfortunately, we do not know the dose of this particular. This medicine is used for prevention, promotion, treatment, rehabilitation. For everything this can be used, provided we know the correct dose. Now, the topic is food-based approach to tackle chronic diseases. This is again very, very important, relevant in the present circumstances. The chronic diseases have already overtaken the communicable diseases, and we are capital for so many, India is a capital for so many non-communicable diseases already, and it is eminently preventable. And food is the most important preventive weapon that we have in our hand for tackling these non-communicable diseases. So I thank the Karnataka chapter of IAPSM once again for taking this chapter, and thank Dr. Suvetha for
So,
accepting the invitation. And I am very eager to listen to you, ma'am. So I will not take much of my time. I hand over to Animesh.
so actually, it's a pleasure and honor, sir, and to be with stalwarts, and it's really a honor today, sir. I didn't expect. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much, sir. Thank you, Dr. Poonam as well. But thank you, Kulkarni, sir. It's actually a pleasant surprise to have you here. I know that this topic is very close to your heart. And more so, we are very fortunate to have you because now you are the IAPSM National President. And you are the one who were, as Dr. Poonam already said, I was about to say that, but she said that you were instrumental when you were based in Dakshin Kannada in KVG Sulya to initiate this, and you were one of the pillars. And this was obviously a on-site and physical program, but then as COVID has done certain things to us, so we have used this platform now to reach out to a larger audience. I hope that this is now useful to many people. So that way, yes. Just before we go on to listen to Dr. Suvetha, let me do the pleasant task of actually introducing her to the audience. Of course, Dr. Suvetha is a very good friend and close friend of ours, well known to me as well as I think Dr. Poonam and quite a few of us here. So let me introduce Dr. Suvetha to you. So Dr. Suvetha actually currently is a professor of community medicine at the PhD Institute of Medical Sciences and Research. She had completed her MBBS from Coimbatore Medical College and followed up with MD in community medicine at Sri Ramchandra Institute of Higher Education and Research at Chennai. She's gained a lot of experience in academia, research, public health management, primary care. She had a stint with the UNICEF for a national program to prevent neonatal and childhood deaths. And last 13 years, she's been associated with the Department of Community Medicine at PhD Institute of Medical Sciences and Research, Coimbatore, which also is quite a prominent and a good institution. And currently, as I already told you, she's a professor there. She's been involved in teaching the undergraduate, postgraduate students, and also interested in pursuing research, guiding student research. She also is instrumental in implementing and evaluating the community intervention program, as well as running the NCD clinic. The biodata she has provided has not mentioned many things, but I would just want to add that she's also had been a fellow of the medical education, the coveted FAMER fellowship. And then she's also gone on to win some awards, including one prominent international award at South Africa, if I remember correctly, Suvetha. I think 15 or 16, you had got that. Yeah, so that's something which I remember. That was for, again, projects that work. She's done some wonderful work in occupational health, especially with the textile mill employees in and around Coimbatore, Tirupur, and other places. And she's very passionate about these things. So this, again, she's not provided me, but since I know, I thought it's important for me to bring out that. And her special interest area is prevention and health promotion. And she's been focusing specifically on cardiovascular health and workplace-based health. She's also been a faculty member in the Preventive Cardiology Division of Department of Cardiology at PhD IMSR since 2019. And her interest made her pursue the IBLM, Diplomate of IBLM course, and 2021 she has graduated from there. And then 2022 onwards, she's been also serving as the Director of Information Technology, Communication and Networking for the Indian Society of Lifestyle Medicine, the Indian wing of the lifestyle medicine chapter. She herself is very much diligently pursuing a healthy lifestyle. And before that, let me tell you that she was also instrumental in organizing an international lifestyle medicine conference in Chennai in November 2023. She's also been with the Indian group of the nutrition, that IPAN, right? What is it with that PAN, right? Yeah. So, and she's also an avid marathoner. She follows a healthy lifestyle, actively promotes that. She's also a founder of Swasthya, a lifestyle medicine consultation service through which she conducts webinars, provides online consultations, offers workplace and corporate wellness programs. So that's in a nutshell about Dr. Suvetha. So with that, let me hand it over to Dr. Suvetha, who will tell us about how to harness the power of nutrition for a healthy lifestyle. So
before I start, Before I start, it's an immense pleasure and with wholeheartedness, I thank the IAPSM Karnataka chapter and Dr. Kulkarni sir for being amidst us, amidst this busy schedule. I never expected that. That was really a surprise. And thank you so much, sir, for being here. Your valuable feedback and your expertise after this talk would really help us to take this forward, sir.
Thank you.
Is my screen visible? Yeah. Is my screen visible?
Yes.
Yes, it's very clear.
Yeah, thank you. So I just wanted to again re-emphasize on myself because it is very much important to know about me, because the person who is talking this topic should be following it, is what I think as far as prevention is concerned. So that's why this slide, and for nothing else. So one of the important things I would re-emphasize here is I try to follow a healthy lifestyle by balancing my work and as well as my personal life. That's something which I would like to emphasize here. And then regarding my work, I do teach, but apart from that, I do get involved in community-based activities, especially workplace-based health, focusing on women. And always cardiovascular health promotion was my interest. So for the past 5 years, I'm focusing more into cardiovascular health promotion, working with the preventive cardiology department in my institution. We do a lot of primary, secondary, and tertiary prevention. So whatever we read, I think I'm trying to put it into practice, and that's something. And with this disclaimer and acknowledgement, let's move on to the session. What is in the plate for us today? So first, a little bit about food and health on evidence-based nutrition. What is food-based dietary guidelines? A little about plant-based diet and how it works. Food as medicine. So I think sir has emphasized on that, and I think we are also going to look into that. And diet as a vital sign and nutrition prescription. These are some of the areas which we are going to touch upon. I try to ensure that the session is useful for you academically as well as for your role as a primary care physician after you graduate and move on. So let's start with an interesting story, and I'm sure all of you as public health people would definitely know about this. And if not, I'm sure it is a must that we need to know this about this story and about this study. It's a must know, okay? So let's go into the story about a Finnish town that went on a diet. Any guesses which the name of that town? You can just put it in the chat box. Yeah. I'm not getting any responses. Yeah. Which is that town? Okay. Let's move on. So what happened post World War was that the heart disease was on a rise, and Finland was one of the countries which had very high mortality because of heart disease. So a 7-country study, which was done in the late 1950s, revealed the same, showing that Finland to be having the highest mortality because of heart disease, which was more attributed towards taking high fat diet. So at the same time, what happened was, especially the eastern part of Finland and this little town in Finland called as the North Karelia, what happened, people in that town, they filed a petition. Why? Because many of the deaths which were happening in that town was among men who were in the productive age group, especially 40s and early 50s. So people were so frustrated because of so much deaths because of heart disease. And so they filed a petition, and on the 12th January 1917. So the government responded to that petition, and this person called Pekka Pushka, he was asked to go do the intervention. And he was, at that time, he was a very young man, probably around 25 to 30 years. Why? Because the government thought that it would take a long time to reduce these deaths. And so they wanted somebody young who can work for a long time. Okay, so that was the reason they recruited this person to work on reducing the mortality in Finland. Okay, so before we move on to what he really did, okay, let's see why the deaths happened. You know what happened in post-World War, there were a lot of war veterans, and many of them injured during the war, and the government provided them with lands. So because of the long duration of war, people in Finland, I mean, these people, they didn't know what to do with this land, because earlier they used to do fishing and growing some crops. But during war, all this got affected. And because they were involved in a war for a long time, they forgot actually as to what to really do. So this little land which they were given, they started rearing pigs. So that, what happened, you give, feed a hungry man with all these fatty foods and you give them the taste of that. Okay, that set the stage for the world's deadliest diet. Okay, a high fat, saturated fat diet. So that was the main cause for high mortality in Finland and many of the countries. Okay, so Pekka Pushka, when he started analyzing, he found that he had to deal with two important causes for heart disease there. One was smoking, and other was, as I told you, a high fatty diet. So his main objective was to reduce smoking and to reduce high fat food intake and promote healthy food intake. It's not so easy, okay? So the key message he wanted to deliver to the people was to go for a low fat, high vegetable intake. So it's easier said than done. So he did a bottom-up approach. We know as public health people, there are different approaches we do. And so he followed a bottom-up approach. One key thing he did was he involved the local organizations, especially the women organizations, which was called as the Mata organization. He involved other ambassadors from churches, schools, and community centers. He involved the food producers and the dairy farmers, all the key stakeholders who are involved in food production and delivery. They were involved in this program. So what happened? Through these local organizations like the Mata organization, they started selling healthy foods like vegetables, fruits. Okay, that was easily made available in the stores. Actually, it was not so easy to do, because the dairy farmers, they are there. Their jobs will be at stake, right? So it took a long time, but then ultimately he could achieve what he wanted to do. Okay, and he also helped the farmers to grow crops like mushrooms and berries, which easily can be grown there. So it was a tough job, but then to change because from the taste of the people, they had the taste of all these high fatty food. So to shift them to this kind of food, it was difficult. But then within a few years, was able to do this, and that led to the dramatic decrease in heart disease in North Karelia, in all of Finland, and especially in North Karelia. There was especially in the age group of 35 to 64 years. So as seen in this graph, somewhere around 700 per 1 lakh, it really reduced to around 100. So that is the status, and what that tells us how much important food plays in many of the chronic diseases, especially heart disease. So let's look into some of the statistics. 1 in every 5 deaths across the globe is attributed to suboptimal diet. And this Eat Lancet Commission, a little bit about what this is. Eat is a non-profit organization where many of the scientists for this Eat Lancet Commission, around 37 scientists across many countries came together. So they came together to work on two important things. One is to promote healthy diet. The other important thing they worked on is so how these healthy diet could be produced within the planetary boundaries, because two things were happening. One, people were going unhealthy, and so malnutrition was on the high. The other thing is food production plays an important role in environmental change. So that was damaging the environment. So they had to draw a boundary between defining what is a healthy food, and at the same time, what this healthy food, the production of which should be within the planetary boundaries. So this was the task they came up with, and I think those guidelines was the base based on which many countries define their food guidelines. So one of the statistics from this Eat Lancet Commission report was that healthy and sustainable diets could reduce around 19 to 23% of global deaths every year. And another important thing is food is, as I told you, food is not just about the individual health, it's also about planetary health. So threat to environment with the current food pattern is around 20 to 30% of greenhouse gas emissions with what we are eating currently. So that is another threat which we have. So food plays an important role both for us and as well as for the planet. Okay, so now let's look into this slide. This is the global burden of disease study. I'm sure many of you would be aware of, which gives statistics on mortality and morbidity for various diseases across various countries. Okay, so this is a compilation. One of the statistics in this bar diagram shows us the number of deaths at the global level for common diseases, chronic diseases like cardiovascular, type 2 diabetes, and neoplasms across different countries of different socioeconomic status. Okay, so what types of food contribute to this? So that is the statistics which is here. I've actually hidden which foods contribute to it. So I would like to get from you, okay? Please open, go to slido.com. You can scan here as well. Go to slido.com, click this number, and then I would like to you to answer if you have gone, okay? I would like you to answer which diet do you think from that slide, I mean, would be causing the or the leading cause for CVD mortality. Okay, that slide, as I told you, shows the various dietary patterns which are the leading causes for mortality, right? So which diet do you think would be the leading cause for cardiovascular deaths? It will be good to get your responses here. High fatty diet, awesome. High fat, fatty diet. Some more responses are welcome. Okay, fat diet. Interesting. Low protein. Okay, fatty diet forms. Still, I get some responses like sweet. Right. I'll wait for a few seconds and then carbohydrate rich diet. Okay. Low fiber. Refined sugars. Awesome. Very good. Thank you so much for your responses. All of us are right in a way, but then we'll be surprised to see actually what, I mean, though the main answer was high fatty diet. I got a few answers like which says low fiber as well. Okay, to your surprise and to my, when I saw this slide in the earlier days, to my surprise, it was not foods which are high in fat or high in sugars. Actually, as one person had mentioned, it was actually because of foods which are low in certain things like whole grains, fruits, nuts and seeds and vegetables. Okay, it's actually, though they all play a role, a little bit of role, like for example, diets high in fat, all these play a very meager role compared to eating foods which actually have to be eaten, eating foods which are low in grains, eating foods which are low in fruits, nuts and seeds and vegetables. So this global burden of disease study revealed that we need to focus on educating our patients on to eat actually what has to be eaten more rather than to focus on what has to be deleted from their diet. So this was a very eye-opening and interesting slide, which I think as public health professionals, we need to know. Okay, so with this, I get a lot of, somebody's working on my screen. Okay, thank you. So we need to understand what evidence-based nutrition is. Okay, we need to gather evidence. We all know about what is evidence-based medicine with so much of studies, literature, research evidence which we are gathering, especially from systematic reviews and meta-analysis. I think evidence-based medicine is playing a key role for us in medical practice. Similarly, evidence-based nutrition plays a key role in identifying the foods which we need to educate our patients on. So we cannot just go by experience, right? So can I know from you, what do you understand by evidence-based nutrition in a single word? Any responses? What do you understand by evidence-based nutrition in a word? Pooled experiences are some healthy foods that works, right? Great. Shall we move on? Proven, yeah, excellent. So as for evidence-based medicine, I think we need to gather evidence and to look at the highest scientific evidence which is available in the form of meta-analysis and systematic review before we put into practice. So I think that area on evidence-based nutrition is very less because very less focus as public health professionals. I think we need to work to gather more evidence on culturally relevant food practices which work for our cultures, right? So this is an important growing field, and I think we need to do a lot of work. Yeah, excellent. Thank you so much. All of what we have told is right, and I'll just share the definition, okay? The practice of making dietary recommendations based on scientific evidence along with clinical experience. To make it very simple, as I told you, evidence-based nutrition is an important area which we have to work on and build evidence for to put, because this is the food, as Sir said, is the biggest weapon, and which really has the potential to prevent, promote, and cure a lot of non-communicable diseases which are emerging. Right. So this is I've given the reference here down as well. Some of the evidences which are based from mainly from systematic review and meta-analysis. Many countries have come out with the guidelines for clinical practice for their own countries, as well as WHO also has. If you look into this literature, you'll know that WHO, United Nations, all have brought out guidelines based on the highest evidence which they had. So see, these are some of the evidences. So we need to work towards promoting nutritional practices which are evidence-based. Okay, so that's why I shared this slide here. Right. Okay, so with this background, we need to understand that earlier, the recommendations for nutrition were based on recommended daily elements. We all know. So the recommended daily elements for iron, RDA for calcium, we used to look into that, right? So what is the problem with this? Why it is not prepared currently? Okay, so what are the, we were focusing on individual nutrients and what were the foods rich in that. But then we should understand that it is very difficult to educate patients on individual nutritional nutrients because people, the cultural pattern differs, their customs vary, their socioeconomic conditions differ. So there are so many factors which influence. So what happened was I think even the Eat Lancet Commission and other, based on many of these guidelines, people started countries started recommending food-based dietary guidelines or food group-based dietary guidelines. So because we don't focus on individual nutrients, right? Like, so we focus on taking cereals, pulses, so food groups. Okay, so these guidelines were based on many of these recommendations. These food-based dietary guidelines, and even our own National Institute of Nutrition also promotes our own food plate, which is based on these guidelines, right? So why, as I told you, the economic conditions, cultural, social, and environmental conditions of each country varies. And I think we need to consider this before we recommend foods. So mainly to prevent disease, promote health, and also ensure that it's environmentally sustainable. Okay, so here I'm sharing some of the examples. If you look at some of these, most of these food plates across these countries are similar, with some little variations based on that country's culture. This is, for example, choose my plate. This is US food plate. Half of the food plate is fruits and vegetables, and the next half, which includes grains and the protein sources, they either suggest to take animal-based proteins or plant-based proteins, and they recommend dairy, okay, as in the form of milk or milk products. So this is with regards to US. Okay, so this is the Eat Well plate from Britain. So if you look into this plate, again, see, the fruits and vegetables constitute the major part, if not half, okay? And the rest of it is on carbohydrates, which is like cereals. And then protein sources are mainly from animal-based foods. And again, dairy products for formulate, okay, this food plate. This is China, the pagoda, Chinese pagoda, based on their culture. Look at the food plate itself reflects their culture, right? So here, the majority of the plate there is constituted by carbohydrates, okay? And then comes fruits and vegetables, and then comes meat and poultry, okay? So then this is the, this is from Japan. This is called the spinning top. Here, if you see Japan, the fruit consumption is actually the reverse. It's actually very less recommendation. And this is from Canada. Canada, if you see, the fluid recommendation here is water, and the majority of the protein recommendation is from plant-based sources, and very less recommendation is for animal-based sources. This is regarding Canada. Why I'm particularly talking about this is I want you to remember this plate because we're going to discuss again in few slides later. Okay, and this is our own food plate from the National Institute of Nutrition. Again, half of the food plate is should be fruits and vegetables, and then cereals and grains and pulses are the rest of the plate, and milk is the recommended fluid from the environment. So this is our own food plate. Okay, so all the food plates reflect their culture. The foods they suggest are different, but overall, most of them want half what they recommend is fruits, vegetables should form majority of your plate. Again, it's based on evidence, right? So that is uniform across all countries. But then what is the other thing? I'm again coming back to this slide. Why? Because some countries have looked into this environmental sustainability. Now, like, for example, Canada, Sweden, some countries which had given environmental consideration, US a little extent as well. But majority of the countries, this component may not be high. But I think going forward, this is an important component as per the Eat Lancet Commission's report, right? Okay, so why? Because as I told you, agriculture is one of the important causes for greenhouse gas emissions or environmental pollution, especially animal agriculture. And this again slide shows how much of land we are using for agriculture. So especially for livestock rearing and meat and dairy production. So probably working on a sustainable dietary solution could be helpful for both an individual's health as well as for the environmental health. So that is another important thing which we have to keep in mind. Right. So what is sustainable diet? It has a low environmental impact, a protective and respectful of diversity and ecosystems, culturally acceptable, accessible, economically fair and affordable, nutritionally adequate, safe and healthy. As far as the FOA was concerned, this is the definition for sustainable diet. I found a reference which is much easier for us to remember, Sharp Diet, which tells us that whatever we recommend to our patients should be sustainable environmentally. Okay, so it should be healthy. Okay, it should be affordable. That is meaning accessible for our customers, yet supporting our agriculture sector as well. It should be reliable. That is, there should be a constant supply of that food, and it should be safe. And P is it should be preferred. That is meaning it should be culturally acceptable to that population. So remember the Sharp Diet when we advise for our population or patients, or when we come out with the diet recommendations for policy changes. I think we should remember this. Okay. So I told you I'll come back to the how the Canadian guidelines, food guidelines evolved, considering individual health, cultural factors, economic conditions, and environmental sustainability. It's very interesting. So this was the food plate which they had recommended in 1977. This is the first time they came out with this colorful food plate with the sun in the center and all the other food groups on around. If you see, it was fruits and vegetables, around 4 to 5 servings, breads and cereals, and then milk and milk products, meat and its alternatives. Okay, so this is in 1977. If you see in 2007, see the center of the food plate reflected there the kind of jobs they do in Canada, the kind of livelihood they have, how they prepare food, all those things were reflected in the center, reflecting that their culture. So that cultural, they gave importance to the culture of their country. So that was there in the center. So that was the difference. Rest of it, the food plate was similar, but one difference in 2007 was they gave also more options for milk, alternatives for milk, okay, which was not there in the earlier plates. So they gave alternatives for milk, plant alternatives for milk. The next one was the current food plate. If you see, which I shared already. So here, half of it is fruits and vegetables. Here, instead of milk, they've changed into water. Okay. And as I told you, the protein sources is predominantly plant-based from the picture if you see, and it is less of animal sources. So they have included not only cultural relevance, but also environmental sustainability or environmental perspective was also given importance. Similarly, countries like Sweden also have evolved based on evidences and from other, mainly from evidence and giving respect for the environment. Okay, so what all, as I told you, these are the factors which they considered: nutritious foods to encourage, cultural preferences, energy balance, and environmental impact. These were the 4 considerations which they had for when they framed their food plate. Right, okay. Another important study, I think, as public health physicians, which we need to know is the China study. And this person here in this picture, Colin Campbell, he was the lead who was the most important person who took the leadership in conducting this study and bringing out the recommendations from the study. And he has also a book. The China study is also a book which he has written. I think all of us have to read and learn from that book. Okay, so what are the key features? So I'll tell a little bit of background about this China study. Actually, it was done in the 1980s, where what they did was they compared, they did some survey in some counties in China and compared it to some of the data from some of the other countries. Okay, so why they did this? China, unlike other countries, what happens in China is in a particular place, let's say it's in northern China, in that particular locality, the food pattern will be almost uniform. They will not have a change in their food pattern. But based on the geographical distribution, it may vary, but that particular place will have a same food pattern. They try to follow a food pattern, and they have a kind of a uniform lifestyle. Okay, so they wanted to see how the Chinese their statistics varies or is comparable to the rest of the world. So that's why the study was done. And it's very interesting to see that when they did the study, they found that there were 2 types of diseases, okay, based on the geographical location. One was the disease of the affluent, like, for example, heart disease, cancers. Okay, so that was mainly in places where there was people living with high socioeconomic status. Okay, and other places, there was one group of diseases like pneumonia, okay, COPD, all diseases which are mostly related to disease of lower socioeconomic status. So there were 2 sets of diseases. And other thing was, another interesting finding which they compared China with the rest of the world was the highest cholesterol levels in rural China were near to the lowest levels found in the US. Okay, only small intakes of animal products were associated with significant increase in chronic degenerative diseases, and greater percentage of plant foods in their diet, the less chances of getting diseases. So that was the findings from this study. Okay, and this is the one of the statistics which we get from here. Okay, so see the total protein consumption in China. It is so less compared to the West. See their starch consumption, it's so high. In spite of that, they had very less heart disease, they had very less cholesterol levels. That's because probably the nature of carbohydrates they took and also their physical activity. And fat percentage in calories, only 15% of total calories was fat, and here it is 39%. See the average cholesterol levels. So it is around 129, 127, and here it's average in the West is 200 plus. So this China study revealed some important messages, especially that nutrition is not about adding individual nutrients. Okay, it's about integrated effect of countless nutrients and nutrient-like substances in whole food, mostly from plant kingdom. Okay, so he said there's a holistic approach, and we should not follow a reductionist approach. Like, for example, recommending specific foods for specific nutritional deficiencies. Instead of that, we should have a holistic approach, and that's the concept of all the food plates and the food-based dietary guidelines which we have. Okay, so with so much of overload in our knowledge regarding the evidence and the importance of food in chronic diseases, let's just take a break and try to answer this question, which is probably not related to the subject we're talking. Yeah, which animal has the longest lifespan? Don't see any responses. No responses so far. Any ideas? This slide is simply to take a break. I think, a concentration time is much less, especially
Shweta, the poll is closed. The poll is closed. So
oh,
that's why
closed,
people
is
are
it?
not, yeah, that's why people are not able to.
Okay,
but
fine.
there are some
Let's-
responses coming in the chat. Some people have said D, tortoise, whale, tortoise.
Yeah, I'm seeing it. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know why it was closed. I'm sorry for that. Okay. So it's the whale. I think some of you answered that right. It's a bowhead whale. Thank you so much. I'm sorry that the poll was closed. I don't know why. Okay. Let's move on. Right. Thank you so much. I think that was just to give a small break. Right. So, right, for gathering evidence, I think one of the important things is for us to promote a predominantly plant-based diet and reducing animal sources, which may contribute to many of the chronic diseases. That's what the evidence we get. So a little to know about what this plant-based diet is and how we recommend this. Okay, so the definition is a diet which is predominantly plant-based, close to nature, and produced without added sugars or fat. So this is the definition for a whole food plant-based diet. And I'm just sharing how in a day how the whole food plant-based diet may look like. Okay, so just to show. Okay, this is millet-based grains here with salad and fruits and nuts and seeds to add it to that. Okay, the lunch probably with unpolished rice, vegetables, and a salad. Dinner along again with the whole grains, chapati, protein source, and some vegetables. So, okay, a little more to understand about what this is. Let's say we are all used to eating polished rice. As I go back to the definition of whole plant-based diet, it's predominantly plant sourced, close to nature, minimally processed, produced without adding sugars and fat. So reiterating that. So how do you make this more healthy? You can share in your chat box. How does this become fitting into the definition? Yeah, because this is many of the cultures we are used to eating rice. So it's something which we need to continue, but how do you make it healthy? fitting to the definition. Eating with more vegetables, okay. Good attempt, khichdi, right? Thank you. Pongal. Yeah, so you're trying to tell that you're adding some protein or some vegetables to make it more healthy, but the food per se, so what we take is, what rice we take, the polished rice is, has gone through many stages of processing, right? So when I tell minimally processed, we need to look into sources where the rice is minimally polished, like unpolished rice, right? So the rice which is minimally polished, so that is probably making this fit into the definition and also suiting to our culture. We are not getting away from the rice. So that is probably the way to go. Okay. Okay. Oil. How do you make this? We need to get the fat from this source, but not in the form of oil, right? So how do you get that? Where do you get oil from? Any ideas? How do you, what is the unprocessed? How do you make this fit into the definition? We need a fat source, but not in the form of oil because it's processed. Yeah, I'm getting some responses. Excellent. Yeah, you got it here, there. So nuts and seeds, coconut oil, ghee and butter, no oil. As most of you had rightly pointed out, yes. So you could, as I showed in the food plate earlier, you could take it in the form of seeds, right? Okay, so adding seeds daily to your food will, you'll get the same amount of fat which we need to take, but not in the processed form, right? Again, fruit juices are processed, right? So recommend more of taking whole fruits than fruit juices. Potato is something which is close to all of our heart, but probably not as potato chips. We should not be denied of the, all the goodness of that, but probably in a more holistic form, right? So how do plant-based diets work? Because I'm working into cardiovascular health promotion, I thought I will probably share a slide on how it works in healing the endothelium. So we all know that, okay, the plant-based sources have a lot of antioxidants, okay, so which are very much important probably for our So what happens? So the endothelium is a very, very sensitive lining in the blood vessels. So when there is a damage to the endothelium, it really causes platelet adhesion, and which this leads to LDL uptake, and because of that there's an LDL uptake which migrates into the subendothelial layer, and this LDL becomes oxy LDL, okay, and a whole lot of pathogenesis starts. Okay, so the formation of oxy LDL is one of the key changes, inflammatory processes which cause atherosclerosis, and we know what happens next. So promoting a diet which is low in salt, saturated fat, sugars, and cholesterol may prevent a vascular endothelial injury. Okay, taking diets which have, okay, there is a injury happened. Is it reversible? Yes. When we promote more of foods which have high antioxidants, definitely this damage could be further reduced, or you can protect the endothelium. Okay, so an endothelial healing can happen. And taking diets which have less animal sources, which is a source of trimethylamine oxide. Animal foods are source for trimethylamine oxide. So when you reduce consumption of animal foods, again, you can prevent macrophage activation, which again prevents endothelial damage. So definitely food has a major role in many of these chronic diseases. One of the examples which I share here. Okay, so in a nutshell, avoiding vascular endothelial cell injury by consuming foods that are low in sugar, salt, and fat. Okay, in order to reduce the risk of LDL oxidation, we have to take lots of foods with antioxidants, and you have to reduce processed animal foods for preventing the macrophage activation. So remember these three things. Why? Because this is very important. When we are in clinic doing clinical practice, how many times, even in our primary health centers, how many times have we focused on assessing some of these factors? We have vital signs, right? Heart rate, okay, blood pressure, all these vital signs we do record. But how many times have we taken time to assess the lifestyle vital signs, which includes physical activity, diet, sleep, stress, social connectedness, substance abuse? So we have not, I think, though we ask, probably it is not addressed probably during management of the patient. So lifestyle vital signs play an important role. And in that diet, today, since we're talking about diet, we can make a quick assessment of diet in our practice. This why I told you to remember the previous slide is because, see, asking these three important questions is sufficient for us to assess their dietary patterns, also counsel them for dietary change, and also to monitor progress, right? Okay, so see how three important things. We need not take a detailed dietary questionnaire, because in an OP practice, it's just we can just take a quick assessment. Okay, so for all other lifestyle vital signs as well, but today we are focusing on diet. So how often do you consume highly processed meat? How often do you consume sugary foods and drinks? And how often you consume more fruits and vegetables? All these things are related to protecting the endothelium, right? So these three questions itself is suffice. And this is from the latest publication in 2023, where they recommend this kind of assessment, quick assessment for assessing diet. So next, coming to food. So once we assess the vital signs, and it is important that we give a prescription. We always focus on giving diet prescription, and Sir was telling about food prescription, food as a medicine. And I think that also has to be prescribed if the patient is not on a proper diet. So for that, we need to consider cultural and environmental factors. We need to give an individualized approach. It's one size does not fit all. We have to assess the lifestyle vital signs first, harness the power of technology. People are more interested in technology now, right? People are more interested in technology. Like, for example, they use smartphones, smartwatches. So they like to record what they're eating. So probably you can use all the technological components. You can also use, for exercise prescription, we can use the FIT principle here as well. So I'll show you an example of how we do in our practice. This is the prescription chart which we have in our practice. So we find out the name, age, and sex of the, we note down that health issues. We find out from the patient what their dietary goal is and what type of diet they would like to be in. They want to be in a predominantly plant-based diet, or they want to take a flexitarian approach. So we find out what it is, and then we give prescriptions based on the FIT principle for each of the food groups. Remember our food plate? It has fruits, vegetables, nuts and seeds, grains, pulses. These are the predominant food groups, mainly which is present in our food plate. So we use the FIT principle to give a dietary advice. Look at this. Okay, this is one of our patients. So looking into the FIT principle for fruits, so we ask them to take at least 3 to 4 servings of fruit, preferably in the mornings, okay, and at least 3 to 4 varieties. So frequency, they have to take predominantly about morning. It's good to take all 3 times a day as well. So frequency. Intensities, how much do you have to take? At least 3 to 4 serving. A serving is around 100 grams. Okay, type, at least 3 to 4 varieties. Timings, preferably within 1 hour after food. So this is fitting into the FIT principle. So we need to be very specific when we give a prescription for each of the food groups to our patients, so that it is, we have to also ensure that it's culturally relevant, economically feasible for the patient, okay? And then try to be as specific as possible so that it is easy for them to follow. So this is regarding food prescription. Now, coming to the most important or recent developments as far as food and health is concerned for chronic diseases is the concept of food is medicine. Okay, this serves as a bridge between the healthcare professionals and the food producers. Okay, so what is this food is medicine? There are three important components which has become very popular in the West, and slowly, I mean, probably these concepts are coming in here as well. So they have started, physicians there have started giving medically tailored meals to patients to their homes. Okay, so based on their clinical conditions, let's say a hypertensive with a renal disease. So they prepare food meals based on how the patient needs this, and they deliver it home. Okay, a little more broader is to provide groceries, medically tailored groceries based on the patient's clinical condition. And this is produce prescription, because giving prescription is one, but then also to making it accessible for the patient is another. So they provide vouchers or cards at a discounted price to be used by the patients in the markets. So where this is called as produce prescription. So these are some of the recent developments which have happened or which are becoming more popular in the West. And I think we need to, I think countries like India, we need to make it, make these kind of options available for our patients, because we are the capital for many of the chronic diseases. And I think making food accessible for our patients is very important. So with this, probably what we look into today is the role of food in health, and why evidence-based nutrition is important in designing guidelines for relevant to each country. And it should be a holistic approach and not a reductionist approach. And what is plant-based diet, and what is whole food plant-based diet, and food as medicine, and the recent developments in medicine. Thank you. And if there are any questions, I'm happy to take.
So thank you, Suvetha. It was quite comprehensive, though in a very short time period. So thank you. And I have requested if anyone has a question, they can. Okay, Dr. Arun Singh says his question is already there. Okay, so Dr. Arun Singh is asking, I have a question. Is there an acceptable definition of food serving as mentioned in STEP survey for NCD? The steps ask for more than 5 servings of food and vegetables to be consumed per day. How is one serving to be defined in our Indian context?
Sorry, yeah, and one serving, how is it defined?
How to define that in our Indian context? Because for our country, our context, lower socioeconomic status will not be able to afford 3 to 4 servings.
Excellent. Yeah. So the answer to this is the one side is the NIN guideline, which says like, you know, to take around 3 to 4 servings of fruits and vegetables. In each country, it varies. So one serving generally is around 100 grams. Okay, so that's the answer to the first part of the question. And the other thing is how to make it affordable. I mean, people are not affordable, and how do you recommend this? So the other next important thing is you need to advise them to go for locally available fruits and vegetables based on seasons and their where they live. So that is another thing. So we need to be aware about what is available in our place and how they can afford that food. And we can also talk about a little bit about what are the health benefits of going for a predominantly plant-based or a healthy diet, which will be linked to improving the health outcomes, so that the cost for health expenditure also decreases. That can be linked. That is the second answer. And the third important thing is food prescription. I was talking about produce prescriptions, which is a long-term probably. We need to have, I think this health is not an isolation, it's not an island. I think we need to, intersectoral collaboration is always an important component which we talk in public health. I think we need to collaborate with the other sectors like agriculture, and we need to look for solutions where we can go for low-cost food productions where people can afford local foods instead of going for foods which are not available in their place. How to grow sustainable food crops? Those things I think we need to simultaneously work, because we are going to be the capital for many chronic diseases, and if we are not going to address this, I think then it's going to be a problem. I hope I try to answer, all the questions were asked.
Yeah, thank you, Suvetha. So before I go to the next question, Dr. Motagi right in the beginning had put a question: which are the foods you recommend for gaining body weight?
Okay.
Then I'll take up the other two questions which I've just got.
Okay. So we know that obviously weight gain, I think in the context of tuberculosis, he asked. We have guidelines in the national program. NTEP recommends protein-rich foods, and I think in the program also they give, I think, egg and other animal sources are given, which is there, and we can also encourage our patients on pulses, how to cook them, and foods rich in pulses, I think, which may help in weight gain, and also essential fatty acids.
Okay, thank you. And Dr. Arun is happy with your answer. Dr. Ajay Malle asks, ma'am, we usually recommend unsaturated fat to our patients, but these seed oils are usually chemically refined. So while unsaturated fats may be good for cardiovascular health, what's your opinion about these fats to overall health? Please opine.
Okay. So first thing I told was, one of the important components in the definition of whole food plant-based diet was a food which is minimally processed. Okay, plant-based food which is minimally processed. And in our recommendations, in our day-to-day practice, we do not advise on oils. We advise our patients on a minimal or no oil food, and we recommend them to take nuts and seeds which have these fats without the processing happening in that. So that also in moderation, and we tailor to individual needs. Like for example, a patient with dyslipidemia, the amount of or the portion or the how much of nuts and seeds they have to be taking may be different from what we recommend for individuals without dyslipidemia and other conditions.
Right, thank you. So I'll combine two questions. They are on similar lines. Dr. Amulya and I can't make out the name, Doctor. So both of them are concerned about the availability of, the nutrients in the plant-based diets that you've been predominantly talking about. So Dr. Amulya says that the bioavailability of micronutrients are lesser compared to animal sources in plant-based diet. And Doctor's concern is vitamin B12 is usually found to be deficit in the plant-based diet. So what is your opinion on that?
Right. So first, answering to the first question, yes, definitely animal protein has a much better qualities what it is said. But then when we take a proper combination of grains and pulses, the bioavailability is improved. Okay, so that is one. So, and on the right portion size, which is recommended, we need to take a combination of grains and pulses. That's the first important thing which we need to remember. The second important thing is about vitamin B12. Okay, so vitamin B12, we should know where it is from. It is found in the microbes and not in the animals. So it's from the microbes. The microbes are the biggest, bacteria are the biggest sources, which are found in the gut of animals. And that's why when we take an animal food, people who take animal food have B12. But if you see in Indians, the B12 deficiency seems to be uniform across people, not based on their dietary pattern. It is uniform across all people, mainly because of intrinsic factor deficiency. And so whoever it is, if you're on a vegetarian or on a non-vegetarian diet, it is good that we check our B12. And if needed, we have to advise them on B12 supplements.
Okay. So Dr. Arun has another question. From nutrition perspective, how are the whole dals better than the dehusked dals?
Yeah, mainly because of the fiber content. You talk about dietary fiber. I think that is one of the important things. We need to go for a whole of grain dal. Like for example, urad dal, when we use commonly for making batter, it's better to go for the dehusked one than dehusked. Go for the dehusked one rather than removing the husk from it.
Okay. Anyone else has any questions or you want to speak? Dr. Kulkarni, sir? Yes, sir.
Yes. I wanted everybody to finish their questions because I wanted to give them chance.
No, I too wanted to come to you later, sir. That's why I didn't ask you.
That's right. Yeah, it's an excellent presentation, Suvetha. But I have some important points to make. First is, what is your opinion about insulin resistance and what causes, okay, what food or what diet causes insulin resistance? Because almost all the non-communicable diseases, I believe, have their root in insulin resistance. So what's your opinion on that?
So the latest theory tells that the main cause for insulin resistance is intramyocellular fat deposition. So what happens is when fats get deposited within the muscle cells, they prevent insulin from reaching inside the cells and acting. So that is the latest pathogenesis or the reason behind insulin resistance, which is predominantly common. So the high fatty food, obesity, they play an important role in insulin resistance because of intramyocellular fat depositions.
Is excess carbohydrate getting converted into triglycerides and fat and deposited in the body?
Yes, sir.
Excess carbohydrate.
Yes, sir. Excess carbohydrates do get converted into how they're stored. They get converted into fat. Excess carbohydrates.
So I thought that more than fats, carbohydrates are responsible for the obesity that we have in the epidemic of obesity in our country.
Yes.
And we have a concept of essential amino acids,
yes,
concept of essential fatty acids,
yes,
but there is no concept of essential carbohydrates. So I think going by the the very fact that there is nothing called as essential carbohydrate, we can to some extent reduce the carbohydrate, because the metabolic health, if you see triglycerides, the main reason for triglycerides, I believe, is excess carbohydrate.
Yes.
And secondly, what is your opinion about fructose? Because even fructose.
Yes, yes.
Because NIN recommends in the latest version, even before also, 100 grams of fruits per day.
Okay,
NIN recommendation, even in my plate, even in the 2024 guidelines, it's 100 grams of fruits and 400 grams of vegetable in the latest guideline. But your recommendation is slightly in excess of fruits. So fructose, does it have any?
So actually, so all our fruits have these fructose, but then we should also remember that fruits have fibers in them. So when fruits fruits are a natural source for sugar. So compared to the artificial fructose, which we add to many of our sweets and other things. So what happens is when we take fruits in their full form, not as fruit juices, so it has definitely an important role in improving the antioxidants. So like polyphenols and all these antioxidants, they are rich in that. And I showed a slide which says that they have a big role to play in endothelial function. So the guidelines, we were very much concerned when I saw the NIN guidelines that the fruit consumption, maybe they were looking into cultural factors as well, the affordability and all those things. That's why probably the guide, it has less recommendation. But in general, we at least recommend 3 to 4 servings. And in our practice, we also have seen this consumption has not affected the blood sugar levels of our patients whom we treat with this recommendation of fruits. So it's not about the fructose per se, but probably in what form it's taken. So along with as a natural sugar with fruits, yes, definitely it is not harmful. And the recommendation is around 3 to 4 servings per day.
Okay. What is your opinion about omega-3 to omega-6 fatty acids? And from where the vegetarian should get the omega-3 fatty acids?
So again, so nuts and seeds have these essential fatty acids, and I think when a person is on plant-based diet, it is taken care of through these nuts and seeds. We don't recommend any supplements to get these omega-3, omega-6 fatty acids. Probably there's too much of hype about these things, but with the proper balanced diet, I think all these. That's why we don't look into individual nutrients. So why we recommend this particular serving of predominantly, I'm not using the word predominantly, yes, based on their customs, they can take the animal foods of their choice. But then when we go on this predominantly plant-based diet, we need not worry about individual nutrients except for vitamin B12, which obviously, as I told you, the deficiency is uniform across vegetarians and non-vegetarians, and more so in the vegetarians that they don't have the source. But we need not worry about the rest of the nutrients.
Excellent presentation, excellent, confident answering all the questions, though I differ in some points with you. I agree with that, the gut microbiome is very, very important, but unfortunately, we are taking antibiotics right, left, and center. They are available over the counter, and we are destroying all our, therefore, we are having that deficiency. What I feel is we should have a very good a scientific study, a large number of scientific studies done in our country.
True, sir.
Otherwise, we will be fooled by Ansel Key or some such people.
Exactly.
That Ansel Key study, So we will have to go by our own studies. And I sincerely request all the young people here who are present to take this up, and even the seniors can guide them. Thank you very much. It's a wonderful, wonderful presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your inputs and also for the questions. It has benefited the viewers as well. There's one more question which was there. Dr. Suvetha wants to know what is the requirement of fruits and vegetables, and in grams she wants to know.
So fruits, the recommendation is 3 to 4 servings per day, which is around 400 grams. Okay, and vegetables, they say as much as possible. Okay, there's no maximum portion, but at least minimum of 5 to 6 servings, but as much as possible. And 50% of that should be could be raw vegetables. It's very good. So that's the recommendation. But again, we need to go by culture. And as Sir said, this is also my point to the youngsters. We need to come up with our own guidelines. We need to look into what our food does to our body. And we need to come up with local recommendations confidently instead of blindly following the Western guidelines. That's what is the dream. And I think as a team, I think we need to work on that.
Suvetha, considering the last thing that you mentioned, fruits 400 grams and vegetables as much as we can.
Yes, sir.
We have to meet our protein requirement from the vegetable sources. Okay,
Yes,
and considering the digestible, indispensable amino acid score,
yes,
the absorption of the vegetable proteins is considerably less when compared to.
yes,
How much? From where will we get the proteins? Because the vegetables and fruits. Because see, I am 70 kg. I require 70 grams of proteins. From where I will get the proteins if I am taking as much as vegetables and 400 grams of fruits?
Sir, as far as proteins is concerned, one is we recommend the main source is pulses, sir. Pulses and legumes are the main sources for proteins. So
how much I should take per day? Can you tell me?
Yes, sir. The guidelines, sir. Again, I'm going as per the guidelines, sir. But what is practical? Again, we have to come up with our own. We should look into our population and what we follow here, because we provide whole food plant-based diet. We follow one, and to our patients also we ensure that at least we give 3 servings of pulses and legumes per day, sir. Which is
in grams, can you tell me? In grams, can you tell me how many
around
grams?
Around 250 grams per day, sir. We at least give that much.
Pulses, okay.
Yes, sir.
So
yes,
that means we have to revise the NIN guidelines, which says only 90 grams.
Yes,
okay,
sir. That's the problem. Yes, sir. That was a little bit of we had this thing with the NIN guidelines, which was a little disappointing. But we thought that probably they had looked into the feasibility, and because they also recommend animal protein as well, no, sir, like milk and other sources is also recommended.
That's what I was feeling.
Yes,
that
sir.
we should recommend for vegetarians.
Yes, sir.
More of milk and milk products.
Yes,
because that is the biologically complete proteins we get.
Yes,
and therefore, if people can take like as much as you can vegetables,
yes,
we may also say as much as you can milk and milk products, milk, curds, butter, whatever. Okay.
Yes, one more thing in this milk is so one research says that 62. So this is just for argument's sake and for research, sir. We need to look for because 60 to 80% of Indians have lactose intolerance. We need to do more research, and we cannot go away with milk. But we need to look into ways how milk can be made more tolerable for our patients because that is one of our staple foods. We cannot get away with that, but we need to look for ways to make it more compatible for their health and so well-being. That's one thing which is also my area which I want to really.
Yeah, I agree with you. I will quote one Bhagavad Gita shloka to support whatever you said, though I have some differences with you.
Sure, sir.
Ayu sattva balarogya sukha priti vivardhanaha rasya snigdha sthira hridya ahara satvika priyaha. Satvika people means the people who were sitting reading the scriptures, like okay, Bhagavad Gita or Purana or whatever, and they were teaching. So it is like a teacher's job. Okay, they were sitting, reading, and teaching. And whatever NIM recommends as the sedentary worker, it is equivalent to the Satvika food of the ancient Indians prescription. So there what they have said is Rasyaha, Snigdhaha, Stiraha, Rudyaha. These are 4 foods. Rasyaha means Rasa Bharita Ahara, juicy fruits and vegetables only. What you are recommending, I agree with that. Okay, Bhagavad Gita says that.
Okay.
But I slightly differ. That is a different issue. Snigdhaha means that time Snigdha is fatty foods. That time they only had the cow's milk and milk products. Okay, cow's milk, curds, butter, ghee. Okay, Rasya, Snigdha, Sthira, Hrudya, the stable foods and the one which is appealing to everyone. Because as you said, likes and dislikes.
Yes.
Okay, so this is what is recommended in Bhagavad Gita also, and you have emphasized, okay, in modern day also it is valid. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. And
very honored to get your input, sir.
Yeah, Dr. Poonam wants to come in, but sir, I just want to tell one more thing. See, I keep meeting. Day before, in fact, 2 days back, I was with Suvetha in Coimbatore because I went for FAMER. But last year, December, when I had gone for one of the conferences there, so she had taken me to a place which is no oil, no boil, no cooked food. And it was very delicious. I was also apprehensive, but I wanted to try. And she had taken me to a place which serves only that kind of a food, which is not even boiled, not even no oil, and no cooking. So and it was, I mean, I have a picture, I'll send you, sir. So it was complete food, right from, you know, the starters to even juice and everything. And it was very nice, very, very nice. And that instead of the rice, it was actually that poha, that avalaki, which was substituted with soaking and all that. So it was very tasty food actually, and nothing was cooked. So I'm just remembering that when I.
So I have to visit Shweta once.
Sir, it's an honor, sir. Sir, it will be a great pleasure and honor, sir.
Thank you. I'll definitely come. I'll definitely.
You made my day.
Okay.
Dr. Poonam, please go ahead. Yeah, you want to say something?
Dr. Animesh, Dr. Suvetha.
Oh,
Dr.
okay.
Abhay,
Yeah, Dr. Abhay, yes, please.
Yeah, I enjoyed the session. Very useful. I was listening to you, Kulkarni sir, and I do. There is a lot of scope for community medicine professionals to bridge this gap of right knowledge and giving alternative right food. So that is required. So good amount of empowerment is required. Capacity building is required, and it is a wonderful initiative. I appreciate that, and thank you. I enjoyed the session and the interaction also. Thank you.
Thank you, Abhay, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Abhay. And thank you, Dr. Poonam, for having Dr. Abhay also along. So that's very nice. You know, that's very nice of you. Thank you so much. Yeah, I think one or.
Thank you, Dr. Suvetha. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
There is one more question, Suvetha, that is talking about. Of course, somebody wants to know about NIN guidance and documents, but of course it's there. But other than that, see, what are the requirements of a diabetic diet? How much carbohydrates, proteins, and fats? Dr. Motagi is asking.
Okay. So what I'm going to tell what we do practically. Okay. So our principles are all what we do in practice, as I told you, right from primordial to tertiary prevention, we promote a whole food plant-based diet. So when we have proven that as well in our patients, when we promote a whole food plant-based diet, go back to the definition, which is predominantly plant-based, minimally processed. So when we promote that, when our patients go for a complex carbohydrate, when they take whole fruits, when they take a lot of vegetables and so whole grains, we need not worry about the portion size of these, even for diabetics. So when we go for this predominantly plant-based food, we need to, basically the principles is what we need to teach our patients. Okay, so when they understand this concept and when they adhere to that, I don't think we need to worry much about what about the glycemic index and those things. Yeah, obviously it's important, but then when this is done, those things are taken care of, is what I say.
Right. So I think that's almost all the questions and comments. I've taken up everything. Yes, I hope there are no further questions. So I've already put a message that will be ending now if there are no further questions. So I think that's,
also apologies for some interruptions because my daughter was around.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Yeah. Sir, anything last, any comments or anything?
No, thank you. It's wonderful. I enjoy it.
The last question has come. What about milk-based products?
So we need to remember that we need to consider food as a whole, not the individual components of a food. So milk, we need to look into the patient. Let's say a 5-year-old with undernourishment or a tuberculosis patient, we need not look into whether it's good or bad. Probably the milk may be more helpful. It's an individualized again. But then for a diabetic, probably, or for a patient with cardiac disease, the fat in the milk may be more harmful than the little calcium it may give. So we need to individualize. And also we should remember that, as I told to sir, that lactose intolerance is high in Indians. We need to just look into the patient's situation, their socioeconomic condition, and then advise on that relevantly based on that.
So, in fact, I know some people who actually take milk in different forms. They won't drink milk for some reason or the other, but they will take paneer, or maybe they will also take, certain other things like maybe, processed form, that is cheese or something. Okay. So
please ask which diet surveys for individualized days. I shared
before
some.
that, keto diet recommended for obesity. Dr. Mutagi, I think 2-3 questions have been answered. So it's not that we are not answering your question. Please be attentive. I think we have already taken, including your first question. So now we are taking this question. What keto diet recommended for obesity?
So we also should remember that a diet should be balanced, and keto diet is not a balanced diet, and it is not sustainable. And when we look into the keto diet, we should not look into only for weight loss. We should look into for cardiovascular health. A diet which is high fat, high animal protein may not be good for our cardiovascular health or for our renal health. So it may reduce our weight. So, and it is not sustainable. So these are the reasons against sufficient to tell that it's not a good enough diet. So always suggest a balanced diet that is better. Proven, as we say, go for evidence-based nutrition. Look for evidences whether keto diet works. What are the pros and cons? Look for the highest evidence for a diet.
So I think, yeah, there is another one. Which diet survey is best for assessing individual diet, that you've already told?
Yeah.
I think that should be fine. Anything else? Which I think everything is done. Mechanism of action of what? There's a question, mechanism of action.
Keto diet.
Yeah, keto diet, I think.
Yeah, the high protein, animal protein, fat, high animal protein can damage the kidneys. So it is a huge protein load it's harmful for the kidneys. And again, animal proteins and animal fat are sources for TMAO, trimethylamine oxide, which is an independent risk factor for heart disease. That is probably the mechanism of action for keto diet against these diseases.
Right. So I think we've had a very comprehensive discussion. We will end here. We've already overshot the time that we had proposed for. And that's fine, because we had a very good discussion, and I think very, very good involvement from the audience as well, whether it was for the activities on Slido or otherwise, and even questions. I think we can end. Sir, any last comments or something you want to share? Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Last comment is only thank you, Suvetha.
Yes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Pleasure and honor, and to all of you. And it's really, really good eye-opening. And sir had a lot of things to share, and I'm really
honest. No, he is very passionate about this topic. I know that, and he's also included it in Presidential Action Plan. So I think that's why. And really nice of you, sir, that you spared time and you joined. It was a pleasant surprise.
Anything I can contribute, I could learn. I'll be very happy to, sir. Yes. Thank you, sir.
And
sure. I'll be in touch with you. Please share your number, Animesh.
I'll send it to you. I'll send it to you. I'll send it to you.
Thank you, sir.
And for the benefit of the audience who's joined us, please tell your friends also, in case they want to listen to this, or you want to refer, any of you want to refer to this session. Within 2-3 days, next 4 days, we will upload it on the YouTube channel of IAPSM Karnataka. We have a channel where we upload all these videos. So anybody wants to refer to these can always come back, and please follow us on social media as well. So we are actively involved there. So thank you so much, and thank you everyone. Thank you Kulkarni sir. Thank you Poonam ma'am, and also Dr. Suvetha for sharing your expertise and experience.
Thank you, Anish. Good to be
we thank Clarnet to partner with us for giving us this platform.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, everyone. So now, with all permission, I'm closing the session here for today.
Thank you. Thank you.